is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Now, this passage is typically read at weddings. It is usually surrounded by candles and lace and flowers, and it is usually heard by two people who are gazing longingly into one another's eyes, convinced that their lives are stretched out before them in a happily ever after type of way. It is heard by women dabbing their eyes and thinking wistfully about the romance of it all, and is heard by men who are sometimes shifting in their seats and wondering when the reception begins. Because this passage is so often read at weddings that we somehow think that it's a romantic kind of mushy, sort of soft, and wistful type of a passage. Well, falling in love is romantic, and it's mushy, and it's soft, and it's wonderful in that way. But actually loving someone, that is not so soft. That is not so wimpy. We have got to be strong. We can't be crybabies. Love that we're talking about this morning is for the tough and the strong. It's for people with grit. This love that is described in 1 Corinthians 13 is typically read surrounded by hearts and flowers, but it should really be proclaimed in a boxing ring. Now, I was the director of women's ministries here for over a decade, and I worked here for over 15 years. I loved it. It's been the honor of my life. And so when I transitioned out of that in March, it was a huge change. And I've really had to take a lot of time to kind of recenter and recalibrate. And some of you have been asking me, what have I been doing during this time? Now, you know that I transitioned into full-time speaking, and I love it. And I've had the privilege of going to different churches and women's retreats and things like that, and encourage those ladies there, and I have loved it. But I've also taken a lot of time to do things like rest. And I've done a lot of reading. I've woken up on Sunday mornings after the sun has risen. It's an amazing thing. I didn't know. I've just had a time to be quiet and to have a time to have some slow days, and it's been really good. I have been cooking for my family. I actually made my own mayonnaise recently. I'm not sure if I went overboard in the whole cooking for my own family thing, but I had the time to do it, and it was awesome. It's good, too. The other thing I've been doing is taking kickboxing. I did not know how much I love to hit things. I love it. I love the feeling that they put when they put those gloves on. And, I know I love a good ladies' tea. I have not completely abandoned the china in my china closet. But, man, it feels good to hit something. And because 1 Corinthians 4:8 is not about weak or flowery love, it's about a love that has a good hit. It's about a good love that can take a hit. It's about a love that can bob and weave, and it can throw a punch. It's about a love that's tough. Hold on. You guys are already saying, wait a second, Melissa, wait a second. We're lovers. We're not fighters. We don't fight in the Christian community. We want harmony. And I know harmony is great, but if you want harmony, you better be tough. Because we are all capable of being lovers and fighters. And as we delve into this passage, I think you'll see ultimately that being a great lover is being a great fighter. Okay, so I want you to picture yourself in the ring. All right, you have got your gloves on. You are, wearing the flag shorts like Rocky. You look amazing. You have your mouthpiece in. You've got your gloves on. You're ready to go. You're sort of a combination of Muhammad Ali and Jean-Claude Van Damme. The kids over here have no idea who I'm talking about when I say that. And Rocky. You guys know who Rocky is, right? Please throw me a bone. Thank you. Don't make me feel 102. Okay, so you guys, you're ready. You're looking, and you're standing there, and you've got your gloves up, and the bell's about to ring, and you look across the ring at your opponent. This is the one who wants to beat you up. It's the one who's going to deliver body blows. It's the one you are coming up against. Who is it that you see in the ring with you? Is it your spouse? Is it your ex-spouse? Is it a friend? Is it a sibling? Is it a neighbor or a boss or a coworker? It's actually not any of those people. It's not your spouse. No matter how much they drive you crazy, it's not your spouse. And it's not your ex-spouse, and it's not your neighbor, and it's not your boss, and it's not your coworker. It's not any of those. We are not in the ring with a single person in our lives, no matter how mean or how difficult they are. We are in the ring with the enemy of our souls. We are in the ring with the one who prowls like a lion, looking to devour us from the inside out. We're in the ring with the enemy of love. Ephesians 6:12 says, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers. It's against the authorities. It's against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." The enemy, seeks to steal and kill and destroy relationships. It seeks to destroy our own well-being, and he certainly wants to destroy the defining characteristic of Christians, our love for God and for one another. And our sin nature and the spiritual forces of evil will lay waste to our marriages and our friendships and our churches and our families if we don't know how to fight well. We are not in a fight against our spouse. We are in a fight for them. We are not drawing enemy lines between us and evil. We're drawing lines between us. We're not drawing lines between us and others. We're drawing lines between us and evil. Now, I haven't been taking my kickboxing classes for very long, so I'm no expert. And if Ronda Rousey were to want to fight me, I would tap out in like 2 seconds and cry and run. Nevertheless, I have learned a few things about kickboxing. Kickboxing is a combination of both offensive punches and kicks and defensive slips, bobs, and weaves. Okay, I want to show you. So what we do in kickboxing is we practice and we do slip. I start left. Slip, and then we bob, and then we weave. And we do this over and over and over again. Slip, bob, weave. Slip, bob, weave. There's a rhythm to it. I'm not very good at it, but if you want to remain in the ring and you want to fight a good fight, you're not always going to be just punching, even though that's really fun. You're not going to be punching all the time. Sometimes you're going to be avoiding a punch. You're going to be avoiding what's coming at you. And in tough love, we need a great offense and we need a great defense. And I believe that 1 Corinthians 13 gives us both. So we're going to break it down. You guys ready? You got your gloves on? All right, let's go. Round 1. Love is patient. Okay, right away we have a slip. We have a defensive move. Love is patient. It means that you bite your lip. It means that you take your time, that you don't react right away. The word patience in this passage really means long suffering. And I don't know about you, but I do not like to suffer. You know that text that you get that infuriates you? Like you can feel as you read the words, the anger rise from like your toes all the way up to the top of your head. Man, I've gotten those. And I get ready and I text angrily. You know, it's not as satisfying if you can't hear the click, so I have the sound up, click, 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 click while I'm texting. And I text it out and I give them exactly what I think and I push send. That's not what we're talking about when we discuss patience. See, that's called a reaction. The enemy loves a quick reaction. He loves words without thought. He loves hot-headedness. Love lets things simmer. It means you wait. You don't text back right away. And probably in direct proportion to how angry you are should be in direct proportion to how long you wait before you do text. Maybe you pray about it. Maybe you call a friend. Maybe you just wait for a day or two for the anger to dissipate a little bit. Because the enemy of love loves us to react. Patience allows us to respond instead. Round 2. Love is kind. Now, this is an offensive move. It's a nice jab to the enemy. Kindness is considering someone else above yourself. It's treating someone else with respect and consideration. It has been my long-held belief that if you are kinder and nicer and say things to your friends that you would never say to your spouse, you may not be very kind to them. It is so easy sometimes for us to just unabashedly say things that are quick and mean and biting to our spouse that we would never dream of saying to a friend of ours. If you have got those things reversed, I just want to encourage you, maybe switch them back. And that's not to say we're going to just start being mean to our friends and only nice to our spouse. You guys have enough kindness to go around. But think about the way you speak to your spouse. Think about the way you speak to one another. And it's not just about not saying mean things. It's actually about lifting someone up. It's esteeming them both to their face and to others. It takes intentionality. It will require that you go out of your way because you'll need to remember that they bless your lives and you'll need to speak it to them. And it is a great uppercut to the enemy of love when you forget about waiting for the other person to be nice first and you just go out there and do it. Round 3. Love does not envy. Now, envy is not just wanting what someone else has. Envy is actually not only wanting what someone else has, but not wanting them to have it. The opposite of envy is contentedness. It is believing that God has provided you with everything that you need and trusting him enough to understand that if you don't have it, you don't need it. The Lord has decided I don't need a Mercedes. I will trust him in that. Round 4. Love does not boast. Now, this letter was written by Paul to the Corinthian church, and the Corinthian church did not know how to demonstrate tough love, okay? They loved bragging and boasting about their spirituality. They loved to show off in front of people how holy they were. And I suspect they probably participated in something called backdoor bragging. Now, I'm sure none of us in this room do it, but I've seen it before. It's kind of like when you sit there and you go, yeah, I just have to demonstrate a lot of patience in my Bible study because so many of them don't know Scripture very well and they need to use their concordances and indexes, and I can find the passages right away. So I usually wait for them a little bit. Backdoor bragging, people. Don't do it. It's ugly. It's charming, isn't it? Yes. Round 5. It is not proud. If boasting is making sure that others have an overinflated impression of you, pride is having an overinflated impression of yourself. These last 3 rounds, love does not envy, love does not boast, love is not proud. These are all issues of humility. And humility is an accurate assessment of yourself. It's understanding that you do have strengths, but it's also understanding that you have weaknesses. It has the ability to see your triumphs. It has the ability to understand your defeats. It is the ability to hold all of those things together and not to rely on one of them more than the other in order to make you feel either better or worse about yourself. C.S. Lewis says, humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. Tough love understands that every single good thing you have in this life is from God. It is all a gift, and none of it was yours in the first place. So there is no need to envy or to boast or to show off, because it is God who has ordained the richness of his love and his goodness and his blessings. And it's not because of what we've done or what we've earned. It's because of who he is. In the words of the great prophet Vince Lombardi, mental toughness is many things. It is humility, because it behooves all of us to remember that simplicity is the sign of greatness, and meekness is the sign of true strength. Mental toughness is Spartanism with qualities of sacrifice, self-denial, and dedication. It is fearlessness, and it is love. See, Lombardi is saying the same thing that 1 Corinthians is saying, that true humility is a sign of tough love. Round 6. Love does not dishonor others. Slip, bob, weave. This verse means that love is not rude. Dishonoring others has to do with how you speak of a person, and it also has to do with how you speak to a person. It's good manners. It's all the stuff that we learned in kindergarten, like say please, which really means be humble. Say thank you, which really means just be grateful. Look at someone in the eyes when they're talking to you, which means be respectful. In other words, treat each human being as if you are absolutely 100% sure that they are wholly and dearly and passionately loved by God. Round 7. Love is not self-seeking. Bob, slip, weave. It's another defense. Okay, just as now, in ancient times, the word love covered a lot of ground. I love my husband. I love my kids. I love my friends. I love my church. I love the tacos I had yesterday at King Taco down in Los Angeles. Have you ever had them? They're a spiritual experience. Anybody ever have King Tacos? Hello? Yeah, Nikki's like, yeah. Amazing. Amazing. It will make you weep. Okay, so clearly I have a love for tacos and my husband, but they're not the same, hopefully, right? But the word love covers them both. So when the New Testament writers wrote about how much Jesus loves us, they didn't want to lump the how much Jesus loves us in the same category as tacos, or simple affection, or friendship, or lust. They wanted people to understand that the love of Jesus Christ is a whole different ballgame. So they developed a new word for this amazing holy love. In the Greek, it's called agape. Another translation for agape is charity, which means that we put others above ourselves. It means we're not self-seeking. And every time Paul refers to the word love in this passage, he is speaking of agape love. And this is the love that God has for us. And it is the love that Paul is telling us to have for one another. Round 8. It is not easily angered. Now, anger is not immoral. Okay, if you are a great lover and a great fighter, there are times you're going to get angry. There is a world of hurt and injustice out there, and sometimes some of those things are worthy to get angry about. But the key here is that we don't approach life from a position of anger. We don't just fly off the handle. We don't pick fights. We don't take things personally. And if we do get angry, we don't feed it like a pet cat and pet it and have it want to come around and live with us. You know what I mean? A lot of time, anger can really be a result of hurt. It can be a result of heartache and a wound that runs deep. And I don't know about you, but I do not like to feel hurt. It feels very vulnerable to have a wound. And so it's easier to get angry sometimes because it makes us feel more powerful. It makes us feel more in control, and it makes us feel less vulnerable and less hurt. But in the process, we will hurt others. And tough love doesn't avoid being hurt. Tough love becomes friends with vulnerability. And tough love doesn't let anger dictate your behavior. Round 9, it keeps no record of wrongs. A while back, Danny and I were getting ready to go out somewhere, and we get in the car, and he's driving, and he looks over at me, and he goes, "Oh, you got your hair cut?" And I said, "I did. Thank you for noticing." He goes, "Yeah." Huh. I said, "What was that about?" And he said, "Well, I just thought that if she was going to cut your hair, she would have trimmed your sideburns." I said, "Sweetheart, I don't know what you're talking about. I do not have sideburns. What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, those things, like that hair right there on the side right there." I said, "Baby, those are not sideburns. Those are wispies, and you're not supposed to cut them." And he's like, "Well, all right. I just thought they were sideburns, you know." That happened about 5 years ago. Tough love keeps no record of wrongs. Basically, this passage is saying that you trust God to be the righteous judge, that he's already watching out for you, and that means that you can forgive, and you can let things go, and you can assume the best about a person, like he didn't really mean sideburns. Okay, we've been in the ring for a while now, and we've discovered a lot of defensive bobs, slips, and weaves. There's sort of avoidances of things, ways that we're not behaving and we're not speaking and we're not doing. And it can make a person start to wonder, does tough love mean that I can have people just sort of run roughshod over me and no matter what, I just take it? I've had people through the years think that because I have a spine, I'm not a good Christian. Nothing could be further from the truth. Do not misunderstand this passage. If we are in the ring and we are learning about tough love, there are times when the best, most loving thing you can do is to put limits on someone who is continually hurtful or continually destructive to themselves or others. It is never loving to hand the keys to a car to someone who is drunk. It doesn't matter how much they beg, cry, plead. It doesn't matter how much you love them, how much they love you, and how much they threaten your love in order to get them. It's never loving. It is not loving to stay in a home where your children are being abused. It is not loving to allow someone to continually behave toward you in a hurtful, mean, or cruel manner. Sometimes tough love requires we say no, that it requires we set limits. And I know there are those of you who are sitting here today who have had to do this with your own children. That you have a child who may be struggling with alcoholism or a drug addiction, and you had to change the locks on your house because they can't come here anymore. It is agonizing. I mean, why don't you just take your guts and spill them out to have to do that with your own child? But it is loving because you're setting limits. But sometimes you just get tired of being in a relationship that's kind of crazy, and so you get beat up, and then you start to wonder, am I setting limits because I'm mad and I'm frustrated, or am I setting limits because this is the right agape Christ-like thing to do? It is very confusing at times. So how do we know? Round 10. Love does not delight in evil. It means it takes no pleasure in someone else's pain. Tough love sets limits, but it doesn't do so in anger, in envy, or revenge. We can use this passage, this entire passage, as a guideline to being a tough lover. In all our actions, whether it is setting limits or it is going absolutely out of our way and going absolutely the extra mile for someone, we can ask ourselves, am I being punitive? Am I being self-seeking? Am I acting out of anger, self-righteousness? Am I doing this out of kindness? Or am I doing it just because I don't want to feel bad? We do not delight in feeling better than someone else. We don't delight in winning or exposing others. We don't delight in taking someone out simply for revenge, even if we've been wronged, even when the other person was terrible, and we never delight in someone else's misery, even when we're pretty sure they deserved it. Round 11. Love rejoices with the truth. We're Christians. We have this agape love that dominates our hearts and our minds, and we tell the truth. And first we tell it to God. We tell him who he is and who he is to us, and we proclaim his magnificent works, and that's called worship. And then we tell him the truth about ourselves, and we confess to him the ways that we struggle, the ways that we sinned, the ways that we have failed, the things that tempt us. We bring all of those things to him, and that is our confession to him. And we own our weaknesses and our frailties and our anger and our shortcomings. And if we're brave enough, we tell the truth to other people about those very same things, because it keeps us humble. We need to tell the truth to one another. And when someone needs limits, we tell them the truth about that too. Not out of revenge or out of pride or anger, but because the truth can set someone free if they let it. Round 12. Tough love always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. This is what's called a flurry. Always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. What does it look like, though? How do you know how to protect and trust and hope and persevere? It means you stay in the ring. It means you keep fighting and you don't give up, no matter what. Uppercut. Is your heart open enough to forgive? Body blow. Are you holding out for hope and redemption? Right cross. Are you wounded but believing the best for and about another person? Left cross. Are you willing to go another round with the enemy of love in order to protect what God has given you? Side punch. Do you trust that God is doing something even when you can't see it? Jab. Do you believe that God is not finished with you yet? Right cross. Are you willing to persevere in this fight, to hang on to a marriage or a friendship, a child, even faith itself? The only way we do that is by staying in the ring, which means staying in relationship with God, keeping our heart open to what he can do, relying on him to defend us and guard us and guide us. Because love protects us from self-destructing from the inside out, from the powers and principalities that would love nothing better than for us to step out of the ring. It trusts God to see us and care for us. It hopes in things we can't see but believe. And it perseveres even when we are very tired and bruised and beaten. And I have had the privilege of being in counseling with different couples. And the number one thing I see with couples is that they're both just plain exhausted. But the problem is when you get really tired, sometimes your heart gets really hard, because it feels better to harden your heart when you've been hurt, because it feels stronger than having to feel wounded. But that's not what tough love is about. See, tough love keeps a soft heart. But that is not without defining limits, and it's not without a dedication to the truth. But it allows that small, continual thought that God can do anything, and that he's not done yet. And our heart remains pliable and open. And that doesn't mean that you even still live with this person, or you work with them, or that you even feel love for them anymore. You may not even see this person anymore, but it means that you believe that God can see what you cannot. And forgiveness and change is possible. It means that you know that God can take beauty from ashes and can redeem what is hopeless. It trusts that just as God is not finished with you, he may not be finished with that other person. And you stay in the ring and you fight for love. Because the alternative is a hard heart. It is an angry mind and it's a proud spirit, and that can destroy us. It's not about the other person. It's about our own heart. It's about our own relationship with God. And it is a 1-2 punch from the enemy of love when we allow our hearts to harden that way. 12 rounds is a long time. It's exhausting. Tough love is tough. And it is so tempting to tap out and to give up and to sit down. I mean, really, how can we possibly do all of this? I have walked around in my own skin long enough to know that this is not something I can do. Not one person can possibly do all of this. But the thing is, we're never alone. You are never in the ring by yourself, not for 1 minute. You have all the power and all the stamina and all the courage and all the fight you need because the one and only living Son of God, Jesus Christ, is already in your corner. He's like Mick for Rocky. He's just there. He's cheering you on. He brings you living water for your thirsty soul. He brings you rest and still waters between rounds. There is nothing that can separate you and this love. And we fight because he fought for us first. We have been given the toughest, strongest, most unbreakable love before we ever stepped into the ring. And we're learning how to give tough love because we've already received it. See, Jesus is patient with you. He sees it when you do that thing you do that you wish you didn't do and then you did it again. He sees it and he does not roll his eyes at you. He does not stomp his foot. He does not go, well, I'm just going to give up on this one because this one's exhausting me. He doesn't do that. He is long-suffering for you and with you, and he is kind. He has plans to prosper you and not to harm you. He is the good shepherd. He offers a life of abundance and grace. He doesn't hold grudges. He loves to bless you with good things. You are his friend. He doesn't glorify himself at your expense. I have never been comfortable with the term, God used me. God used that situation because I have been used before and I didn't like it. What happened is when a person uses me, it's like they've stepped over me in order to get what they wanted. And I don't like that. When God takes us and says, I'm going to bring you somewhere, I'm going to bring you on this adventure, and I think what we mean when we say God uses us is he's actually inviting us to come with him. He actually says, I have this world of opportunity for you, and I want to bring you along. And in that, he gets glorified. It's awesome. And when we're tempted to make ourselves look better or to have like sort of the, backwards sort of boast, it's not necessary because we start to understand that this tough love that we've been given sees us and knows us and understands us. Jesus gives us the best tough love there is, and he says, I see you. I know others don't, and I know it's tempting to brag or to tell people about what you did or what someone said simply because you want to be seen, you want to be acknowledged. But Jesus says, my love is so tough and so strong, you don't need to do that because I already seen it. Jesus will not dishonor you. He will never put you to shame. He will not embarrass you in front of your friends. You might do that yourself, but he never will. And when you try and remind him of all those things, all those regrets, and all that shame, and all the stuff you wish you didn't do, and all the stuff you did do, and you tell him, and you just say, Lord, I can't let it go, I can't let it go, he will look at you and say, I don't remember that. Every time. See, Jesus Christ's love for you is so tough and so true that he sacrificed everything to prove it. He went the full 12 rounds with the enemy of love, and he won. But when I'm in the ring and I'm weary, I need reminding that he's in the ring with me, that he has gone before me, that his love is in me and it covers me and it fights for me, and that's why we have communion. We have to remember sometimes that the love that we demonstrate to others is a love that we have been given first. That God loves us so much that he sent his son into the ring to take the blows that belong to us. And I want to invite the worship team to come out here and play. And while they start to set up and play, I just want to invite you to sit for a minute, because we've really covered a lot of territory. And I know this tough love thing is a tall order. And I know sometimes it is hard. So if you need to concentrate on the love that Christ has given you before you come back to the passage and concentrate on the love that you want to be giving to others, do that. That's what this time is for. Jesus Christ has a love for you that always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, it always perseveres. When you are ready, you are welcome to come up and take communion. This is a physical reminder of the tough love that we have access to. There is juice in the cups, there is wine in the chalice. Come when you're ready, and let's be reminded of this tough love.